House Bill 850, Schools, Pre-Kindergarten Programs, and County Boards of Education Discrimination. Favorable report is amended, adopted.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County, the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And today I appreciate letting me have a chance to take a closer look at this bill. And of course, it's important that we do not discriminate. I think there's some very good things in this bill. And I think there's some additional things that could make this bill better. So I have an amendment at the desk. It's 553226/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a pretty simple amendment. Again, we shouldn't discriminate against people. This just adds language to the current bill. And it says, if you can't pull it up on your computer, I'll read it to you. It's pretty quick and simple. A public school may not provide classroom instruction by school personnel or a third party on sexual orientation or gender identity to students in pre-kindergarten through grade 3 in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate, or in a manner that the department determines is inappropriate. So it's pretty simple. It just says that our public schools shouldn't teach kids 4, 5, 6, and 7 about sex and gender identity. We want our kids to learn to read, write, and do math. Let's focus on that, especially pre-K to 3. And a number of my friends who teach early childhood education agree with this language. They're actually not interested in teaching controversial sex and gender ID lessons to their students. There are 9 other states who passed something very similar to this. This is actually a really scaled down small version of what 9 other states have passed. Sex and gender identity are things that parents and families should be talking with their children when they're developmentally ready and at their home. There was actually a recent poll done on this issue. 1,000 Americans were polled nationwide, and the poll actually skewed Democrat by 4 percentage points. 79% of the respondents thought that parents should be the ones talking to their young children about these topics, not the school system. 64% support this actual language. They actually read this language in the poll, and 64% support it. And there was not a big difference in D's and R's on the actual question. 69% of Republicans and 62% of Democrats, again remembering the whole poll was skewed 4 percentage points. Parents want to know what the curriculum is and is age appropriate. Parents should have a say about what their children are being taught about deeply personal and controversial issues. Kids who are barely old enough to read, they have a whole world of things to learn about in their short 6 hours of classroom instruction per day, sometimes less when they're at pre-K. I agree, we should not discriminate, and that is why this language is just a simple addition. Parents want schools to focus on learning basic skills, not promoting someone's agenda. Let kids be kids. I urge a green vote on this simple amendment. Thank you.
The floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the delegate for bringing the amendment before us. Would have been very helpful if we had had the amendment in advance. We don't. We're reading it right now. But I feel like it's fairly easy to answer. This bill is not about curriculum. This bill is about treatment of students. It's about admitting them, and it's about how you treat them once they are admitted. There's only one mention of curriculum in the entire bill, and it says what schools don't have to teach. That's the only thing. And that really lets a number of schools off the hook as far as religious teachings go. But everything else in this bill is about how we admit and treat students. And to insert something that is curricular at this point doesn't follow the spirit of the bill. So I will ask the body to resist this amendment, please.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County and Harvard.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the floor leader's comments on this. But here's my perspective. We have a very diverse state. Lots of different religions are in this state, and there are lots of different religions in this state who would support the amendment as proposed by my seatmate from Hartford and Baltimore. My family is one of them. I know many families. I have many friends who are Christians, Orthodox Jews, Muslims. This is not an extreme amendment. We cannot continue to push policies from this body that ignore the very real fact that many religious families don't believe their children should be taught this stuff at this young age and in the school system. They want to be having these conversations with their children at the dinner table, when their kids have questions, responding to them in a way that is culturally appropriate to those families' religious beliefs. So for them, this is important. We heard the statistics from the most recent poll on this topic, and just being in the communities, we hear the same thing from people all across the aisle. This is not a partisan amendment. This is a good amendment. This is an opportunity for us to say, yes, children should be children, and parents should have a say in what their young children are taught. This is exactly on the topic of discrimination. This is exactly on the topic of making sure that families' religious beliefs are not discriminated against, and that their children's values and their families' values are included and considered on topics of sexual education. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment in similar form has been introduced in bills around the nation. You may have heard of it. It's the Don't Say Gay bill that recently passed in Florida and which is leading to widespread protests. As this amendment is written, it would prohibit a teacher, for example, if a student who had two moms or two dads and was being bullied by other students, it would prohibit the teacher effectively from responding in any way and saying, hey, that's legal, it's fine, you can't, because that could result in a lawsuit against the school system. It would prohibit a teacher if a student asked about the constitutional protections for gay marriage that have been moved through the Supreme Court. The teacher would not be able to explain the Constitution of the United States and Supreme Court decisions to their students in K through 3. Now, I will say, in K through 3, these discussions don't happen that often, but kids are curious and they ask. And this notion of the rights of parents has been brought up multiple times now in this conversation. And I wonder why those who bring that viewpoint think that gay and lesbian parents don't count too. What about them? We're going to erase them from our schools? I don't know how you can stand on this floor with our gay and lesbian colleagues who have children.
Point of order, you're impugning motives. This amendment does not say that and does not do that, Mr. Majority Leader. We've been instructed not to impugn motives, and I am not doing that with this amendment. You are doing that. That is not what this amendment says. It says, in a manner that is not age appropriate. That is what it says. You are making this DC politics, not us. Madam Speaker, I move this amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, all of this argument notwithstanding, some of which I agree with and some of which I disagree with, which I imagine many of us on the floor feel that way about much of this. That is not what this bill is about. This bill is not about curricular requirements. This bill is about treatment of staff and students in a non-discriminatory manner in the school, and I urge the body to resist this amendment. Madam Speaker.
Madam
Young
Speaker.
lady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Delegate Lutke. What I do want to say is I am gay, and so is my wife. And we have a daughter, and she is so lucky to have two mamas, as everyone tells her. And what I'm hearing is that some people want to ensure that our curriculum doesn't teach age-appropriate ways of talking about LGBTQ kids and their parents. Well, guess what? Our sex ed curriculum already requires it to be age-appropriate. If you've been paying attention on the floor over these past few years when we've done legislation about consent and other issues, it is very clear, and if you look at the rules, what we tell K through 3 kids is not about sex. We talk about appropriate touch. We talk about hugs. We talk about what can be said. When Father's Day comes in the schools and they start writing cards, my daughter has to say, I have 2 mamas. I don't have a father. And then other kids are going to say, what? How can that be? This should be talked about in school. It is normal. It's in everyone's schools. 2 moms, 2 dads, a lot of variations. I'm going to say it one more time. I am gay, I'm gay, and I'm all right.
Let me remind members, do not use the actual member's name when you're referring to your colleague. Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm confused. Majority Leader stands up and said, this is the Don't Say Gay bill. And then we had another speaker stand up and scream, gay, gay, gay. Would the lady from Hartford, maker of the amendment, answer a few questions for me?
Certainly.
I'm looking at your amendment.
Yes, she may.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm looking at your amendment here, and I'm really confused on it because does the word gay appear in the amendment?
It does not.
Does the word LGBTQ or any other transgender appear in the amendment?
It does not.
Can you read me the amendment, read me the amendment again, please?
A public school may not provide classroom instruction by school personnel or a third party on sexual orientation or gender identity to students in pre-K through grade 3 in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate, in a manner that the department deems inappropriate.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the amendment.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you for answering that question for me. Can the floor leader please rise? Just a question.
Floor leader.
So,
Sure.
we just had a member yell out gay, gay, gay 3 times on the floor talking about this amendment. Does the word gay appear in the amendment?
I didn't have access to the amendment before it was provided.
Well,
Will you give me a second to read it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I was listening and maybe I wasn't. The word gay doesn't appear, but the word sexual orientation, that phrase does.
Sexual orientation does. Can you explain to me, it says a public school may not provide a classroom instruction by a school personnel or third party on sexual orientation or gender identity. And then it says to students in pre-kindergarten through grade 3. We just had a member say that the curriculum, it's already age appropriate in the curriculum. Is that true?
Yes, for public schools.
Right. So
Don't even
why
require
why
private-
wouldn't this? Why
Can I
wouldn't
answer
it-
the question, please?
Yeah. Why wouldn't
Wait,
this?
I didn't get to answer the question. May I answer it?
Go ahead.
It does exist for public schools. It's not required in private institutions.
Okay. So why wouldn't this amendment be appropriate then? If that's already the curriculum policy, why would it be
Easy.
a
I've
good
said-
idea?
Asked and answered. It's not on the subject of the bill. The bill is not prescribing curriculum. The bill is to prescribe whether or not students may be discriminated against, parents may be discriminated against, staff may be discriminated against.
With all due respect, your first answer, you said there was curriculum in the bill.
No, you didn't hear carefully. I would like to contradict you on that matter.
Okay, go ahead.
We allow certain kinds of curriculums. We do not prevent them. We do not prescribe them, and that's what I said.
So instead of passing this and adding this language to this bill, you want to, why is this a bad idea, recodifying this in state law? Because I don't think it's appropriate to be talking about this, and I don't think it's appropriate. These aren't your children. These are the parents' children. And that's how it should be really framed.
If I answer
what
your
gives you the right to introduce gender orientation to someone under 3rd grade?
Do you want him to respond?
Sure.
So by answering your question, I would justify the premise, why is this a bad idea? I'm not discussing whether this is a good idea or bad idea. What I'm discussing is this does not belong in this bill at this time.
This is the amendment in front of us. We're a public policy body. Here's the amendment in front of us. I would like for you to address that question.
There's no reason to, as I've said,
Madam
because this
Speaker,
is
the
not the
floor
matter.
leader-
Okay. Well, I'm
Floor leader's not
asked an
answering
answer,
the
Madam
question.
Chair. Thank you. Madam
Well, you
Speaker.
won't answer the question. Madam Speaker, can we get a floor leader to answer that question? Whether this is a good idea? Because I don't see why we should be teaching other people's children that are from preschool to third grade sexual orientation and gender identity.
Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you.
Because it's a straw man argument.
It's a straw
Because
man.
it's a straw man argument. Take a look at the curriculum. It's all online. Take a look at the curriculum for kindergarten through third grade. It is a straw man argument. It's a falsehood to say that schools are like proactively engaging in whatever it is you think they're doing. And the converse of that in this amendment, because the way this is going to be interpreted in schools, is you cannot talk about this at all. You cannot talk about this at all.
I don't believe the amendment says that. And look, children have many different parents. Some children have single parents. Some children have grandparents that are acting like their parents. So I don't see any of that in this amendment, period. I mean, we're offering conjecture, and this seems like a really good idea not to talk about sexual orientation and gender identity with kids. Third grade, I mean, that's 7, 8, 9-year-olds, right? 9-year-olds?
So to answer your question, it's not conjecture. I've spent my career, a number of us on this floor have spent our careers in classrooms. And what will happen if this passes is that classroom teachers will get the message that you are not allowed to talk about this. Exactly as I described earlier, the gentlelady interpreted that as me questioning intent. I'm describing what I think would be the reality of this passing. And that may not be your intent. But I believe this amendment would have horrific effects on children who, even at that early age, themselves may be starting to consider their own sexuality, and on children of gay and lesbian parents. So I oppose this amendment, and I would ask the body to vote red.
Well, Madam Speaker, on the amendment.
On the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the majority leader answering, not ducking the question there, and give me a straight answer, but I'm still kind of confused because on one way they say, oh, we're not doing this as part of the curriculum, and then we can't pass this in law because if we did that, then it would be a problem with the parents or some other, euphemism there. Look, this sounds like an amazing idea. These kids, the public schools are not the parents. You're not the parents. These are not your children. And look, nothing gives you the right to breach this subject with kids that are third grade and less. This amendment reads kindergarten through third grade. That's it. That's all it does. I'll rise to support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote.
Explain your vote.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am upset and disturbed that my motives have been impugned here. I have many friends who have many different types of families, and that is not what this amendment does, and I'm sorry that my good friend interpreted it that way. Of course, teachers can talk about the many different kinds of families. What this is going to do is say that drag queen story hour is not going to happen in the public schools. It's going to say that that is not appropriate for public schools. Thank you.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails.